Jai Gurudev, and today we are here to explore the deeper meanings and messages in a profound poem written by His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji. So we will delve deeper into the poem. Now, the poem touches on life's promises and the journey of love, discomfort, desire, joy, and fulfillment. To gain a deeper understanding, we have with us an esteemed art of living expert and a panel of world renowned experts from art of living from fields of literature, psychology, and philosophy. Thank you all for joining us today. It is a pleasure to be here and to reflect on Gurudev's profound teachings through the poem. It speaks to the essence of the spiritual journey and the truths of life. Let's begin with the opening lines of the poem. If I had to promise you something, what would it be? I can't promise that you would always be comfortable because comfort brings boredom and discomfort. How do you interpret this, and why does Gurudev focus on the idea that comfort can lead to discomfort? Jai Gurudev. Gurudev's message here is subtle but incredibly powerful. Comfort, when experienced for too long, can numb our sense of growth and progress, spiritual evolution, and indeed personal growth often comes through challenges. When we are too comfortable, we stagnate. Discomfort, on the other hand, can serve as a catalyst for change, making us more resilient and opening the door for deeper experiences. I would agree with that from a psychological perspective. Constant comfort can create what is known as hedonic adaptation, where the mind gets used to pleasure and it no longer feels as fulfilling. Discomfort, while initially unpleasant, triggers problem solving mechanisms in the brain. It makes us more adaptive and helps us appreciate moments of joy when they arrive. In fact, research shows that moderate levels of challenge and discomfort can lead to heightened states of creativity and innovation. There is also a philosophical dimension to this. The ancient Stoics believe that hardship is essential to building virtue. Gurudev's message echoes the sentiment. Without discomfort, how can we truly understand the depth of joy or the fullness of life? His teaching reminds us that life's difficulties have a purpose. They push us to find inner strength, resilience, and deeper wisdom. Moving on to the next line, I can't promise that all your desires will be fulfilled because desires, whether fulfilled or unfulfilled, brings frustration. This seems to challenge our conventional understanding of desire. Can you elaborate on this? Yes, this is a key teaching in many spiritual traditions, including Vedanta and Buddhism. Desires, whether fulfilled or unfulfilled, are often the root of human suffering. When we achieve a desire, it might bring temporary happiness, but it is quickly followed by a new desire or the fear of losing what we have. When desires are not fulfilled, we experience frustration and dissatisfaction. Gurudev is reminding us that the real peace comes from not the fulfilling of desires, but from transcending them, moving beyond the constant cycle of craving and aversion. In literary history, this idea has been explored by many poets and writers. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, for example, Macbeth's unchecked desires lead to his ultimate downfall. There is always an underlying restlessness when it comes to human desires. The more we desire, the more we chase after something that can never fully satisfy us. Gurudev's poetry here invites us to reflect on the deeper implications of desires and the endless cycle they create. Gurudev's insight aligned beautifully with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that true liberation comes from acting without attachment to the fruits of one's actions. Desires are not inherently wrong, but when we base our entire happiness on their fulfillment, we set ourselves for inevitable frustration. The deeper promise of spiritual practice is to experience the joy that comes from within, independent of external achievements or desires. The poem then touches on the concept of good times and how tough times help us appreciate joy. I can't promise that there will always be good times because it is the tough times that make us appreciate joy. Why is it important to experience both joy and hardship in life? Life is a dynamic interplay of opposites, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, comfort and discomfort. All are part of the human experience. Without experiencing the lows, we would not fully appreciate the highs. Tough times cultivate strength, endurance, and gratitude. As Gurudev often says, the mind naturally gravitates towards opposites. Joy is sweeter when it follows a period of difficulty. These contrasts teach us to remain equanimous, to rise above dualities, and find a steady sense of peace that doesn't fluctuate with external circumstances. There is a growing body of research in positive psychology that suggests adversity can actually contribute to long term happiness. This concept, known as post traumatic growth, shows that people who go through challenging times often emerge with a deeper sense of purpose, greater appreciation for life, and stronger relationships. So it is not just that tough times make joy more recognizable, they also help build a psychological resilience which makes joy more sustainable. Another striking point in the poem is I can't promise that we will be rich or famous or powerful because they can all be pathways to misery. This speaks to society's obsession with wealth, fame, and power. Why do you think these are considered pathways to misery? Wealth, fame, and power are often mistaken for ultimate goals in life. However, Gurudev points out that they can be burdensome and lead to misery if they are not approached with wisdom. Riches, fame, and power can create anxiety about losing them, and they can isolate a person, taking them away from what truly matters love, connection, and inner fulfillment. Spirituality teaches us to prioritize inner riches over outer ones. True wealth comes from the richness of the heart, not the size of the bank account. It is interesting to note that there is substantial sociological research indicating that material success, once it reaches a certain level, does not correlate with increased happiness. In fact, people who focus solely on external markers of success often report higher levels of stress and loneliness. Gurudev's poem beautifully reflects this wisdom. These outer achievements may look desirable, but without a balanced inner life, they can become sources of suffering. As we move toward the poem's conclusion, Gurudev offers a more personal promise. Yet, if you are willing to walk with me, if you are willing to value love over everything else, I promise that this will be the most rich and fulfilling life possible. What does it mean to walk this path with love as the guiding principle? Love is the foundation of the spiritual journey. When Gurudev speaks of walking with him, it is not just about physical proximity, it is about walking the path of awareness, compassion, and devotion. To value love over everything else means to choose compassion over ego, to prioritize connection over division, and to find joy in serving others. This path, guided by love, is the ultimate promise of a fulfilled life. It brings a richness that no material possession or external achievements can offer. The idea of love as a central guiding principle is present in many spiritual traditions. In Christianity, for example, love is at the heart of Jesus' teachings, while in Sufi mysticism, love is the path to divine union. Gurudev's message is universal. It transcends religious boundaries and speaks to the innate human desire for connection and meaning through love. The poem ends with a deeply intimate and profound message. If you are willing to walk into my arms, if you are willing to live in my heart, you will find the one you have waited forever. You will meet yourself in my arms, I promise. This imagery of meeting oneself in the Guru's arms is beautiful. Can you shed light on the significance of this? In this spiritual context, the Guru represents the inner self, the true essence that resides within each of us. When Gurudev says, you will meet yourself in my arms, he is speaking about self realization. The ultimate promise of the spiritual path is that through devotion, love, and guidance from the Guru, we realize our own divinity. This is the fulfillment we have all been seeking, knowing our true self, which is eternal, infinite, and full of love. This passage is highly symbolic. The act of meeting oneself in another's arms speaks to the concept of unity and wholeness. In many literary works, this idea of finding oneself through love or a relationship with a guide is a recurring theme. It is a journey of self discovery where the individual comes to realize that the fulfillment they seek is not outside but within. Gurudev's poem captures this beautifully. It is an invitation to embrace the inner journey. The Guru disciple relationship is often described as one of the most sacred bonds in Eastern spiritual traditions. The Guru, like a mother, nurtures and guides the disciple to see beyond the surface of life, to experience the depth of their own being. The promise Gurudev makes is timeless. It is the promise of self discovery, of realizing that the love we seek in the world is already within us, waiting to be uncovered. Thank you all for such an insightful and enriching discussion. It is clear that Gurudev's poem offers deep wisdom on the human experience, blending the practical realities of life with the spiritual promises of love, growth, and self realization. Any final thoughts? Just that Gurudev's teachings remind us that the greatest promises in life are not about material success or external comforts, but about the inner richness that comes from walking the path of love, wisdom, and self awareness. This is the true celebration of life. Thank you once again to all our esteemed panelists for sharing our expertise. This has been an illuminating conversation, and I'm sure our audience will leave with a deeper appreciation for the spiritual journey described in Gurudev's poem. This in depth exploration of Gurudev's poem reminds us of the timeless wisdom inherent in his teachings. As we continue to explore spiritual literature, These insights help us cultivate a more profound understanding of life's true promises. Jai Gurudev, and thank you for joining us once again in this deep exploration of the beautiful poem written by His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji. This poem presents powerful promises that speak to the truths of life and the essence of the spiritual journey. We have with us an esteemed art of living expert and a distinguished group of professors in the fields of literature, psychology, philosophy, and spirituality. Let us continue our conversation, dive deeper into the nuances of this poem. The poem begins with an intriguing promise. Yet, if you are willing to walk with me, if you are willing to value love over everything else, I promise that this will be the most rich and fulfilling life possible. This suggests that love is the most important thing in life. Why do you think Gurudev emphasizes this above all else? Gurudev's teachings often remind us that love is the highest force in the universe. It is the unifying energy that connects all beings. Love in this context is not just romantic love, but a higher, universal love that transcends boundaries. When we place love above everything else, we are essentially aligning ourselves with the highest truth. This doesn't mean a superficial or conditional love, but a love that comes from a place of purity and selflessness, something that nurtures both the giver and the receiver. From a psychological standpoint, love is indeed the foundation of human well being. The renowned psychologist Carl Rogers often spoke of unconditional positive regard, a concept that mirrors Gurudev's idea of love. This type of love, devoid of judgment, opens up the heart and allows for personal growth. When we value love above all else, we open ourselves to deeper connections, personal healing, and fulfillment. Research shows that people who prioritize love and relationships tend to have higher levels of happiness and life satisfaction. In literature, love is often portrayed as a driving force behind both joy and tragedy. However, love that is untainted by expectation, as Gurudev suggests, is something more profound, as Shakespeare's A Midnight Summer's Night's Dream. For example, the characters are often lost in chaotic and confusing expressions of love, but in Gurudev's poetry, love is a guiding light that helps one find peace, meaning, and purpose, similar to the works of Rumi, who emphasize love as a path to spiritual realization. Philosophically, love has been considered the highest form of existence in many traditions. In Plato's Symposium, love is described as the ascent of the soul towards the divine, with the human experience of love being a mere shadow of the true, eternal love. Gurudev's emphasis on love is deeply rooted in these ancient traditions, but valuing love over everything else, we align ourselves with the divine essence, leading to a rich and fulfilling life. One of the powerful points Gurudev makes is about discomfort. I can't promise that you would always be comfortable because comfort brings boredom and discomfort. This is quite a profound statement. Why does discomfort play such an important role in life according to Gurudev? Gurudev often speaks about the importance of discomfort because it is through discomfort that we are pushed to grow. Comfort is stagnation, discomfort is the fuel for transformation. When we are uncomfortable, we are more alert, more aware, and more connected to the present moment. Discomfort forces us to expand. Whether it is emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, it can be a powerful teacher. From a psychological viewpoint, a discomfort can be seen as a form of cognitive dissonance where we are forced to face our contradictions and make changes. When we experience discomfort, it challenges our current ways of thinking, allowing for personal growth and self improvement. Many psychological theories, including those of Maslow and Jung, emphasize that it is the difficult times, the moments of struggle, that lead to self realization, actualization, and individualism. In Eastern philosophies, particularly in Buddhism and Hinduism, discomfort is viewed as an inevitable part of life that leads to spiritual awakening. The Buddha's teachings on suffering dukkha emphasize that only by embracing discomfort can we transcend the illusion of permanence and reach a state of peace. Gurudev's teachings align with these ancient insights. Discomfort teaches us the impermanence of everything and helps us move beyond attachment, which is the root cause of suffering. In literature, discomfort is often the catalyst for a hero's transformation. Think of works like the Odyssey or the Divine Comedy. The hero must endure trials, face discomfort, and experience struggle in order to gain wisdom and achieve their ultimate goal. Gurudev's message reflects this ancient narrative structure. Discomfort is not something to avoid, but something to embrace as it brings us closer to our true selves. Another striking part of the poem speaks about desires. I can't promise that all your desires will be fulfilled because desires, whether fulfilled or unfulfilled, bring frustration. This is a challenging idea in our desire driven world. Can you explain why Gurudev says that desires, even when fulfilled, lead to frustration? Gurudev is pointing out a profound truth: desires by their very nature create attachment. When a desire is fulfilled, there is a brief moment of satisfaction, but soon the mind moves to the next desire. Fulfillment of one desire often leads to the birth of another, and the cycle continues. Unfulfilled desires cause frustration because we constantly feel that something is missing. Ultimately, the mind never stays satisfied, and that leads to a constant sense of yearning. In psychological terms, this is akin to the concept of hedonic adaptation, as I mentioned earlier. The idea is that people quickly adapt to changes in their life circumstances, including the fulfillment of desires, and return to a baseline level of happiness. So, even if a person attains what they desire, it doesn't lead to lasting happiness. It is a cycle of continuous wanting, which is itself leads to dissatisfaction. Gurudev's understanding aligns with the core teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna advises detachment from the fruits of actions. Desires are not inherently bad, but when we attach ourselves to them, they bind us. The Gita speaks of acting with a sense of duty and devotion, without attachment to the outcomes. Gurudev's message encourages us to cultivate a mindset where fulfillment is found not in the acquisition of desires, but in the transcendence of them. The concept of desire as a source of frustration is echoed in many literary works, particularly in existential literature. For example, in Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, the protagonist is caught in a constant cycle of wanting and dissatisfaction. Gurudev's poem reminds us that true freedom lies in releasing the cycle of desire, and that this can lead to a more fulfilling life. Gurudev also speaks about togetherness and separation. I can't promise that we will always be together, because it is separation that makes togetherness so wonderful. How do you interpret this concept in terms of human relationships? Gurudev is teaching us a profound lesson about the impermanence of life. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or a spiritual teacher, have their moments of closeness and distance. It is during the times of separation that we learn to value togetherness more deeply. Separation gives us the opportunity to reflect on the importance of those connections. In relationships, whether personal or spiritual, both presence and absence have a role to play in making the bond more meaningful. From a psychological standpoint, relationships are dynamic. Constant closeness can lead to dependency or boredom, but temporary separation allows both individuals to grow and appreciate the relationship more deeply. The concept of space and relationships is crucial for their health. In the absence of this space, we may take each other for granted, but in separation, we reflect on the value of our connection. The concept of separation and togetherness has deep roots in Eastern thought. In Hindu philosophy, it is believed that the soul undergoes cycles of separation from the divine in order to experience longing and desire, which ultimately leads to reunion with the divine. Gurudev's idea that separation makes togetherness more precious is a reflection of this universal truth. Without the experience of absence, the present wouldn't be as appreciated. In literature, the theme of separation and its role in deepening relationships is a recurring motive. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna and Krishna experience a moment of separation during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which leads to profound realizations. In romantic literature, the separation of lovers often intensifies their condition and brings a deeper appreciation of their bond. Gurudev's idea reflects this timeless literary truth. Finally, the poem ends with the most intimate and profound promise. If you are willing to walk into my arms, if you are willing to live in my heart, you will find the one you have waited forever. You will find yourself in my arms, I promise. What does this final promise represent? This final promise is the culmination of the spiritual journey. The Guru, according to Gurudev, is not someone external to us, but a reflection of our own higher self. By surrendering to the Guru, we surrender to our own true self and nature. In the Guru's embrace, we meet our higher consciousness, a self that has been waiting to be discovered all along. It is the ultimate reunion with the divine within. From a psychological perspective, this promise speaks to the journey of self actualization. The Guru or spiritual guide serves as a mirror for the individual. In their guidance, the individual comes to a greater understanding of their true self. It is a process of self reflection and self discovery. This promise aligns with the Vedantic view of self realization. According to Vedanta, the Guru is seen as the embodiment of the supreme reality, and by surrendering to the Guru, one realizes their own true nature, which is divine. The Guru's embrace symbolizes the union of the individual soul with the supreme soul. In literary terms, this promise is reminiscent of the archetypical spiritual quest, where the seeker finally finds themselves. In works such as Dante's Divine Comedy, The protagonist undergoes a journey of transformation and ultimately self-discovery. Gurudev's poem represents and presents the Guru as the final destination where one meets their truest, most divine self. This has been a profound discussion on Gurudev's poem and its implications for human life, relationships, and spiritual growth. In closing, could you each share a final thought on how the themes explored in this poem can help us lead more fulfilling lives? The poem reminds us that true fulfillment does not lie in material success or fleeting pleasures, but in love, growth, and self awareness. By embracing discomfort, transcending desires, and valuing the presence of the Guru, we can experience the richness of life that Gurudev promises. Life's challenges are not to be feared. They are opportunities for growth. By embracing love, discomfort, and our own deeper truths, we can move toward a more fulfilling existence. The journey is one of self discovery and reunion with the divine. The teachings of His Holiness Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji offer a path that leads not to external success but to internal peace and joy. This poem reminds us that life is not just about achieving external goals, but about understanding the deeper truths of our existence. The themes of love, separation, and self realization offer timeless lessons for all of us. Thank you once again for sharing your wisdom. This conversation has truly enriched our understanding of Gurudev's teachings, and I hope our audience finds inspiration in these insights as they walk their own paths. Jai Gurudev.